What if I told you that people who disagree with you are actually your secret weapon for better thinking? Just last month, my wife and I had a heated argument about the studio and about some of the changes I wanted to make to it. I wanted to make those changes here on the ranch to help me, what I thought be more productive. Her immediate reaction was about cost. How much is this going to cost us? Mine was about productivity and creativity. We were just talking past each other completely. But when I applied what I'm about to teach you, we discovered we were both right. We found a way to address both concerns without compromising either. So what started as an argument became a session where each of us were heard and understood. Sounds crazy, right? By the end of this video, you'll not only believe that disagreement is your secret weapon, but you'll have experienced it yourself. Now, before we go any further, I want you to pause the video. Think of someone you disagree with about something really important. Think about them really hard. Put them in your mind. What was that disagreement about? Who is it? Why? What was it about it? Okay? Now, in the next 25 minutes, you're going to see that person differently. You're going to see that person as your thinking partner, not as your enemy or the person you just had the argument with. You know that sinking feeling when a simple conversation with someone just turns into that heated argument. You walk away thinking, oh my gosh, how did that go so wrong? The problem isn't the disagreement itself. It's that most people never have learned how to use disagreement productively, to help them think better, to help them become smarter. We encounter difficult disagreements almost daily. Your spouse questions your spending, in my case. Your boss pushes back on your proposal. Your friend challenges your weekend plans. Each disagreement is an opportunity for your thinking to become clearer, become sharper, and for you to become smarter. When you approach it right, others often will think more clearly too. So, let's look back. We've been talking about thinking skills for quite some time here on the channel. But all that really is focusing around solo thinking. And when you're doing solo thinking, you operate in your comfort zone of cognition, of your thoughts. Familiar patterns feel safe. Your trusted sources, whether it be social media, your news feeds, whatever, they get your attention because they're the ones you always go to. Comfortable assumptions go unchallenged. All your friends think alike. It's efficient, but it also limits intellectual growth. In our critical thinking skills on how to improve critical thinking, which is by far our most popular video, we covered things like questioning assumptions, checking evidence, applying logic, and asking good questions. Now, if you haven't watched that video, pause this and watch that first. Links will be in the description or over in the show notes. It's foundation to what's coming next. Now, you can go ahead and watch this video and you'll be fine. But I would suggest if you haven't seen it, either watch it now or wait to the end and then hop over there and see it next. There's one thing we left out of that video that I look back on because it's been over a year now and that video came out. And that is intelligent opposition makes these skills far more powerful than solo practice ever could. Now let me show you what I mean. Take any belief you hold strongly. What is that? Now, imagine defending it to someone smart who disagrees with you. Scary, huh? Now notice what happens in your mind. You suddenly realize that you're going to need better evidence than just being able to say, well, I read it somewhere. Your own assumptions are going to come under sharper scrutiny. The logic behind your argument and behind your position, behind your belief, needs to become more rigorous under pressure. The questions that this smart person is going to ask you is going to get sharper and you need to be able to ask sharper questions to understand their position. That mental shift happened because I introduced the idea that you're going to talk to somebody who disagrees with you, but who is really smart. Your brain got more demanding of itself. And when you engage thoughtfully, something interesting really happens. The other person starts thinking more carefully too. Think of it as like physical exercise, muscle strength through resistance, not relaxation. Your thinking muscles work the exact same way. Intellectual resistance, such as smart disagreements, makes your reasoning stronger. Your evidence gathering is more thorough. Your conclusions are more robust. This is where things fall apart for 95% of the people. They don't get it. Most people will never learn this because they're just too busy being right and positioning themselves, telling you why they're right and why you're wrong. They miss the thinking benefits because they fail at disagreement basics. They get defensive. They shut down. Conversations become battles. Someone challenges their ideas, fight or flight kicks in. Instead of seeing an opportunity for better thinking, they see a threat. Imagine your boss questioning your budget request in the middle of a meeting. Your heart rate goes up. Your face flushes. You start defending. You start thrashing instead of really just listening. 20 minutes later, you've missed valuable insights that other people have been talking about because you went into your head trying to think about your response to your boss about the budget. You've tuned out your reasoning, and maybe both you and your boss, you've damaged a key relationship. Look, this makes total sense. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and someone attacking your political views, let's say. Same threat response kicks in. When you get defensive, it often triggers defensiveness in others. They interpret your reaction as confirmation that this is a fight, not a discussion. And once this happens, thinking improvement stops immediately. Your emotional brain takes over. Pure survival mode. No learning happens. No improvement in you becoming smarter. No growth occurs. The chance for better thinking vanishes. So what's the solution? Learn how to keep disagreements constructive instead of being destructive. So how do you make disagreements constructive? Now, the difference between constructive disagreement and destructive argument is not the topic. It's how you handle the interpersonal dynamics. I'm going to walk you through 4 skills that will transform how you should approach disagreements. They create the conditions where all others are more likely to think clearly. When you use these skills, something remarkable happens. You stay open, you stay curious, instead of being defensive and closed. When others see you thinking clearly under pressure, they're more likely to follow suit. Now, think of these as the basic requirements for constructive disagreement. If you miss any one of these, and even the most critical thinking techniques are going to fail. People will be in defensive mode instead of collaborative, productive thinking mode. So let's walk through these. Skill number 1, accurate listening. Can you repeat back their position so accurately that they stop and say, whoa, exactly, it's exactly what I mean. If not, constructive thinking stops here. Now, this sounds simple, but most people fail here spectacularly. We listen to respond, not to understand. We're busy crafting our rebuttal while they're still explaining their position. The result is we argue against straw man versions of their actual views, the sound bites, the Cliff Note version. This means our thinking never encounters their real challenges. Before responding to any disagreement, try this. Let me make sure I understand. And then repeat their view back using their language, not yours, including their reasoning, including their concerns, include their values. What will you see? Their defensiveness drops instantly. People who feel truly heard, not just acknowledged, but actually understood, become curious about your perspective. They shift from defense mode to exploration mode. When you demonstrate good thinking through careful listening, they see that you're genuinely trying to understand. This often makes them more willing to think carefully themselves rather than just defend their position. When you talk past each other, no real thinking happens. What goes wrong? Most people paraphrase. They paraphrase the positions, but use your own language. This feels like listening, yet it's actually you're just reframing their argument to fit your worldview. True listening means using their words and their framework. So, listening. Skill number 2, tone awareness. Now, there are some people out there that say, oh, tone of voice or body language doesn't matter. It matters. Your tone determines whether they hear thoughtful engagement or they just hear an attack. Get the tone wrong, and the conversation dies before it even starts. So practice this phrase. The phrase is help me understand your perspective. Now say this sarcastically. Okay. Yeah. So help me understand your perspective. Like, think about that. Sounds like an interrogation. Doesn't sound like I'm really truly engaged. Now, if I wanted to say it really is genuine curiosity, right? Share with me, what's your perspective on this? I don't understand, right? That signals to them that you want to learn something. Do you notice the difference between the sarcastic version and the truly inquisitive version? Similar words, completely different effect on their willingness to engage in thoughtful conversation. That difference determines whether they engage their thinking or shut it down completely. Tone carries more information than words. It signals your intent, your respect, your openness to having an open exchange of information. So try this practical test. Record yourself during a disagreement. I don't know where you would do that. Be careful about recording your spouse. I've tried that a couple times, didn't go well. But if you can find a way to record yourself, how you actually sound, not faking it, but really record a true disagreement. Listen back to it. Listen to your tone. Does your tone invite thoughtful engagement or defensive reactions? Most people are shocked by what they hear. It's not what they thought they said, but when they listen to themselves and how they responded in an argument, they're shocked. So tone. So you got listening, you got tone. Number 3, genuine curiosity. Ask questions you don't know the answer to. Not posing a fake question like, don't you think that's wrong? Instead, you should be asking what led you to that conclusion? This distinction is crucial for constructive thinking. The first question is really a statement disguised as a question. You already know what answer you want. You're not seeking information. You're trying to set a trap. The second question is a genuine inquiry. You're asking about their thinking process, their information sources, their reasoning chain. You might learn something that changes your own views. They often discover something about their own reasoning that they hadn't even considered. The test is simple. If you already know what answer you want, then it's not a real question. And smart people recognize leading questions immediately. And once they sense manipulation, they're either shut down or they become defensive. Either way, constructive thinking absolutely stops. Real curiosity sounds different. Like, hey, I'm having trouble understanding how you reached that conclusion. Can you walk me through your thinking on this? This invites explanation and leads to a deeper exploration altogether. Okay? Number 4, respect. Setting the baseline for mutual respect. Always, always, always attack ideas, not people. We cover this in things like brainstorming sessions, ideation workshops. You talk about the ideas, not the people. The moment anything gets personal, thinking stops and egos take over. Attack the person, they have no choice but to defend themselves. Attack the idea, they can defend it, modify it, or even abandon the idea, and do it without losing face. More importantly, you can both focus on improving the idea mutually. Personal attacks trigger what psychologists call defending your sense of self. Someone's identity feels threatened, they'll defend their position regardless of the evidence that you put before them. They cannot afford to be wrong because being wrong means they are a bad person. Keep it about the ideas, and they have cognitive freedom. They can evaluate your points objectively because their identity isn't on the line. When you model respective challenges of ideas rather than personal attacks, others respond with more thoughtful engagement. They feel safe to explore those ideas without defending their identity. Now, the trap here is language slips into personal territory without anybody ever realizing it. For instance, someone could say, "Whoa, that's a stupid idea." It feels like you're talking about the idea, yet it implies the person is stupid for having it. A better way to say it is, "I see a problem with that approach." See what I mean? Okay, good. Now, master these 4 skills, and you create the conditions where better thinking can happen. Now, these work with most people, though some individuals who are extremely defensive or arguing in bad faith may not respond positively, regardless of your approach. So, just heads up when you're going into a disagreement. Is this someone where it's going to be productive or destructive? Next up, the 3-mode thinking method. Now that you can disagree without triggering defensive reactions or fistfights, here's how to use disagreement to enhance your thinking. These 3 thinking modes combine, making your reasoning stronger and encourage clear thinking in others. Now, something critical to understand. These modes only work if you've built the positive disagreement skills first. The 4 that we just talked about. You got to make sure you're listening good. You got to make sure that you've got respect, right? All 4 that we just talked through. So try using these advanced thinking techniques without these basic interpersonal skills, and you're going to get bad results, right? And in fact, it'll be worse than if you just said nothing. You got to deliver and execute and support and enable constructive discussion, dialogue, but you got to have the basics, right? So if you've got the basics, let's talk about these 3 modes. And I apologize, I got an itchy nose for some reason. So mode 1. Mode 1 is evidence and your evidence standards, right? What constitutes good evidence? Solo thinking often accepts weak evidence without even realizing it because there's no one there to challenge the assumptions or poke holes in the logic. And you can get lazy with reasoning because there's no immediate consequences. And during a disagreement, opposition forces you to find stronger proofs. Suddenly, vague claims just don't cut it. Instead of saying, studies show that remote work increases productivity, you're going to need some specifics. Like, this recent Stanford study tracked productivity changes across multiple companies and found measurable improvements for hybrid workers. Notice what happened? The disagreement forced you to name the specific study, identifying the scope and the methodology and quantifying the results and acknowledging the controls used. Your evidence becomes stronger because someone was there to challenge it. When you ask, what evidence supports that view with genuine curiosity, they start examining their own proof more carefully. Good questions naturally prompt deeper thinking. Good questions often lead to better evidence from both sides. The key insight: this only works if you keep them engaged. Use that respectful tone and genuine curiosity to keep them thinking rather than defending. What tends to trip people up? Getting so focused on strengthening their own evidence, your evidence, their evidence, whichever side, right? Everybody gets, oh my gosh, he's attacking. I gotta strengthen. I gotta build up a wall here. That you forget to explore the other side. The goal isn't proving you're right. It's raising the evidence standards in the conversation. Now, there is a bias trap. Watch out for cherry-picking evidence that supports your existing view while dismissing theirs without proper examination. So ask yourself, am I looking for the strongest evidence available or just evidence that confirms what I already believe? That's a question that really requires some soul searching. Be honest with yourself. Now, mode number 2, hidden assumptions. Surfacing these hidden assumptions. Solo thinking often operates on assumptions you don't even realize you're making. You're hanging around with your friends, your family, people within your close circle. You tend to all think alike. Your perspective has blind spots. Your framework has limitations you cannot see. Disagreements forces assumptions into the open. When someone argues from a completely different framework, it reveals the hidden beliefs you were taking for granted. Let's take the team debating about work from home policies. You assume productivity means time spent working. They assume it means results delivered. Neither of you realized you were using different definitions until the disagreement forced these assumptions into the open. Suddenly, you're questioning the foundations of your thinking. You're telling yourself, well, wait, what do I actually mean by productivity? This assumption discovery works both ways. When you ask, what led you to that conclusion? You're helping them examine their own thinking processes right along with you. The mistake that most people make here is treating assumptions as weaknesses to attack rather than insights to explore. Assumption discovery works best when it feels like it's a mutual investigation, helping each other out to really dig into what are kind of those assumptions running around in your head. And the bias trap. Notice when you're dismissing their assumptions without examining your own. Ask yourself, what beliefs am I taking for granted here in this argument? And then what if their assumptions is actually more accurate than mine? Mode 3, thinking mode 3. Logic gets stress tested. Everything comes together. Everything. You're coming down to, now you're building up those logical steps. Everything comes together. You've used improved evidence and clear assumptions to think more rigorously than you could alone. Take a family planning their summer vacation. You want to go to the beach. Oh, the kids love the ocean. And we all need to have time to relax. Your spouse wants to go camping. Oh, the kids spend too much time on their screens. We need a real family bonding time. We need to go way out in the mountains, no cell coverage, get away from it all. Initially, you're both arguing from different assumptions about what the family really needs. But when you start examining your reasoning more carefully, interesting questions emerge. You examine your logic. Do the kids actually love the ocean? Or do I just assume that because, they like the pool? In a beach vacation really relaxing with 3 kids under the age of 10? Your spouse examines theirs, like, will camping actually reduce screen time? Or will it just be a miserable without their devices? Is tent camping really the best way to bond? This logical stress testing reveals that you're both making assumptions about what the kids want and what the family needs. Now your thinking is already getting better. Your example of questioning your own reasoning often encourages others to examine their own logic more carefully. The result might be, hey, let's find a lakeside cabin. The kids get water activities, we get a break from the screens, and everybody gets to sleep in a real bed, not in a tent on the ground. This solution emerges from better thinking by both sides, not from one person winning the argument. Something subtle happens here that most people miss. Your thinking isn't just better because you have more information. It's better because disagreement forced you to examine your reasoning more carefully than you ever would alone. The trap: treating this as a debate where someone has to win. The goal is reaching better conclusions through better thinking, not proving your original position was right. The rationalization trap: using better information to justify your original position rather than genuinely updating your thinking. Ask yourself, am I using this new information to think better or just to argue better? Now, let me show you how powerful this really is. So back in the 90s, I was part of the founding team for Teligent. Our chairman was the former president of AT&T, Alex Mandel. Now, I was by far the youngest founding executive at Teligent. These older, more experienced founders thought about business and value creation completely differently than I did. Initially, I thought they were being overly cautious. They probably thought I was just being purely reckless. But instead of defending our positions, we used these exact principles we just talked through. I questioned my assumptions about speed versus stability. They questioned their beliefs, their assumptions about innovation versus proven methods. We asked deep questions about what customers actually needed, and we truly listened to each other's reasoning. But I also can tell you, some of those early arguments were really, really intense. Now, did we always agree? No, but we aligned. The result was huge success at Teligent. This disagreement process didn't just resolve conflicts, it built a strategic foundation that got us to taking Teligent public through an IPO. If you're finding this valuable, if you find this content so far, keep watching below. We got a lot more to cover, but what I want you to do is go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. Help us with the algorithm. So let's talk about when your thinking actually changes. We talked about all the 4 skills and the 3 modes, right? You got all that. The question is now you're in the middle of a conversation and all of a sudden someone reveals something that causes you to question your own thinking. So what happens? What happens when that disagreement reveals your original position was wrong or incomplete? This is where better thinking actually happens. The 3 thinking modes gives you better information. Now you need to know what to do with it. So what we're going to talk about is 4 signals that it's really time for you to update. Okay, really quick. Signal number 1, better evidence. Their evidence is stronger than yours, and you cannot find flaws in their reasoning. Second signal, exposed assumptions. They revealed beliefs you didn't know you held, and those beliefs do not hold up under scrutiny. A third possible signal, failed logic test. Your reasoning has holes you cannot patch, while theirs holds together. Signal 4, persistent questions. You cannot answer their genuine good questions without changing your position. So, how do you go about actually changing your mind? Now, most people know how to think better, but they don't know how to update their thinking. So here's the process. Step 1, acknowledge internally, hey, this new information suggests my original view was incomplete or just flat out wrong. Step 2, test the update. If I accepted this new information, what would I believe instead? Step 3, express the change. Talk to the person, hey, I'm rethinking my position based on what you shared. Help me understand, help me think through this. Step number 4, integrate gracefully. Confess, I was wrong about X, but I think we're both right about these areas. Now, changing your mind feels vulnerable. It seems like admitting weakness. Actually, it's demonstrating intellectual strength. The person who can update their thinking based on new evidence is more trustworthy, not less. They're someone whose final conclusions you can rely on because they've been tested against opposition. The common fear is, wow, if I change my mind, they'll think I'm wishy-washy. The reality is, people respect those who can think clearly under pressure more than those who never change their position. So the key here is change your mind about facts and methods. Never, change your mind about your values and your goals. Those should be core. You can change your mind about facts and methods, but your values and cores, that's your anchor. Now, for instance, I could say, I still want to increase productivity, but I'm changing my view on how to measure productivity, and that's the method of how we do that, right? So I could be open to return to office policies or hybrid, remote work, full-time remote, right? I may be willing to flex on that, but my core is I want to increase productivity, which is my goal, but I'm changing my view on how to measure it, which is my method. So now let's talk about how do you practice this with real stakes. You now have that complete system, foundation skills that prevent defensive reactions, plus thinking modes that use disagreement constructively. Your thinking gets stronger under pressure. Your approach will bring out better thinking in others. The skills that improve your thinking also make you more effective at work and more trusted in your relationships. This isn't just about better conversations. It's about better thinking outcomes. Practice makes the difference between knowing these concepts and actually using them when emotions run high and relationships on the line. Now, remember that person you thought of at the beginning? Here's the test. By the end of this exercise that we're going to walk through now, you'll actually be, curious about their perspective instead of frustrated by it. So let's see if I'm right. Okay, here we go. First, practice the listening test. How would you repeat their position back so they would say, exactly, you get it. That's exactly what my view. Now try to capture it, not just the conclusion, but their reasoning, their concerns, and what they value. Use their language, not yours. Second, check your tone. Practice saying, help me understand your perspective. And say that with genuine curiosity, not sarcasm. Your tone determines whether they engage thoughtfully or defensively. Third, ask genuine curiosity questions to understand their thinking process, such as, what information do you have that maybe I don't? What experiences are shaping your thoughts on this area? And what led you to that conclusion? Fourth, keep it respectful. Attack their ideas, not them personally. Say, hey, that approach I think has problems, not, you're being unrealistic. The moment it gets personal, constructive thinking stops for both of you. And finally, check yourself for thinking changes. What would you believe if their evidence is stronger? What assumptions of yours needs updating? Am I using new information to think better or just argue better? Listen carefully. Am I using this new information, this discussion to think better or just to argue better? Now, your homework starts now. That person you're thinking about, the person that you guys had a really tough discussion, disagreement on, text them. Text them right now. Pick up your phone. Say something like, hey, I've been thinking about our conversation on XYZ topic. Help me understand your perspective better. One, they're going to be shocked, right? But whatever they reply to, listen carefully. If you do it over text, that's fine. Do it in person, over a phone call, over a Zoom call, whatever. Now, here, try this and see what happens. Did your thinking get clear through this disagreement now? Did your approach encourage more thoughtful engagement from them? The goal is not to agree. We're never all going to agree on everything. It's to think better and to help others think better along with us. Now, we started with critical thinking for individual clarity. Today's episode, we've covered learning how to use disagreement to enhance your thinking and to bring out better thinking in others. In a world where most people's thinking gets weaker under pressure, yours will get sharper. While others defend weak ideas with loud voices and screaming and yelling and, flaming wars on social media, you'll strengthen ideas through intellectual engagement. While others create enemies through disagreement, you will be creating thinking partners. Your relationships get stronger because people feel genuinely heard, often for the first time. Your ideas get stronger because they survive intelligent opposition. Your decisions get stronger because they account for perspectives you could not see alone. You needed that other person's input. Now, take the couple arguing about money. Instead of him defending his investment strategy while she attacks his risk tolerance, they could use disagreement to build a financial approach that's both growth-oriented and security-focused. Same people, same values, better thinking process. Consider the team stuck on product launch timelines. Instead of marketing insisting on more prep time we need while engineering is pushing for an immediate release, they could explore each other's sides to see what market conditions and technical readiness. The result, a launch strategy that neither side could have developed alone. The part that surprises most people is your thinking gets stronger because disagreement forces more rigorous reasoning than you'd achieve in isolation. Your perspective expands because you encounter viewpoints you could not generate alone. And when you model good thinking under pressure, others will follow suit. That person you thought of at the beginning, they're not your enemy. They're not your opponent. It's not a boxing match. They are your thinking partner. The question is, will you use them to make your thinking better? Now, go text that person right now if you didn't do it already, and tell us what you learned down in the comments. Now, this only works if you actually try it. Your thinking and your influence depends on it. So, before you go, subscribe and hit that like button, hit that notification bell in order to get the updates on all the new episodes. Also, support the channel. Hop on over and subscribe to my studio notes over on Substack. Links will be down below. Check out, we have a huge catalog of all of our episodes on thinking skills, constructive thinking, destructive thinking, systems thinking, design thinking, etc. And all those links will include down in the show notes or down in the description. My mission here is to help the audience with improving and stepping up thinking skills. We are in a thinking recession. Our thinking has become weak. I am a firm believer that better thinking leads to better outcomes, and better outcomes leads to better lives. With that, thank you for hanging in there. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.